We are very privileged to have amongst us today Mr. Nikhil Kumar. With almost a decade of experience, Nitin has been hands-on in internet, e-commerce, travel, banking, payments, and financial services industry across product management, process excellence, and operations. An IIT Kharagpur alumnus who led a team of 10 plus to deliver process excellence projects across the entire order lifecycle at Snapdeal and build consumer products to deliver best-in-class experience for recharges and bill payments at free charge. Having worked with MakeMyTrip, Freecharge, Snapdeal, and JP Morgan across roles in operations, process excellence, and product management, he has been instrumental in building consumer-facing products for the past 5 years. Now, we all know that it's definitely going to be an exciting, enriching, and knowledge-packed session that we'll be witnessing today. The topic for today's session is 5 things to know about growth marketing and product management. Please join me in welcoming our guest for today, Mr. Nikhil Kumar. And without much ado, I would like to invite him to start the session. So over to you, Mr. Nikhil.
Thank you, Saurabh, for such a wonderful and warm introduction. I'll quickly share my screen and we'll start. So as we all know, the topic for today is basically knowing about growth marketing and product management. So I have tried to collate some of the learnings that I have had during my role as PM and some of my earlier roles also. And while most of the strategies that we use, or I have used at least, I have been suggested not to disclose those, but I have used examples in some of the other B2C consumer internet space who have used certain strategies, and some of the things that I'm going to discuss. And I'll be using those as examples to explain some of the concepts or some of the learnings that I've had and that I'm going to walk through. So these are the points that I'm going to cover. Understanding growth, then reinforcing habits and improving, using it to improve user engagement. Then the concept of perceived value. Another concept is product channel fit and understanding your user segments. So the first one is understanding growth. So growth typically is about maximizing the existing value proposition of your product by improving acquisition, retention, and revenue generation. So when I say improving value proposition, it means that you already have a product market fit, or your product has already solved for the product market fit experience, and customers who use your product like it. Now, how do you increase the reach of the product? That is the role of growth. On the graph side, if you see, this is a typical retention curve. So basically, if you look at the first point, these are the number of users that you acquired, and over a period of time, how many of those stick to your product. So basically, the top line is of a product which has a good retention, and the bottom line is of a product which has a bad retention. So herein the growth comes if your product is good and if you have achieved product market fit, then role of growth is basically to improve usage of your product or to improve reach of your product through certain strategies. Now going to the RRR framework. So this is a very common framework that is used by growth and product folks. So if you go through each of these, I'm sure a lot of you would be aware about it already. So basically awareness is the first thing, where you increase your product's reach through various channels. Then acquisition, how many people reach out to your website to experience your product through the awareness campaigns that you have run. Then you have activation, where the number of where the user takes the first important step. That could be signing up or doing a first transaction. It could be anything. Then how many of those users come back to experience your product again, which is retention. And then revenue generation, how many people are actually paying for your product. And then referral. So basically, how many people refer your friends to refer your product to some of their other friends. But typically, what happens if we follow this framework is we end up in silos. So basically, acquisition and awareness becomes maybe part of a separate team where marketing team runs certain campaigns to bring certain users, and then conversion becomes role of the product. This is a traditional approach, but this is not how growth should work. Growth typically works as loops. So here it does not work in silos. In growth loops, there is an input and there is a set of processes and action steps which user takes, which leads to a certain output, which again reinforces your input. So loops look at the growth picture in a much more holistic way. I'll explain it through some of the other examples. So if you look at the Netflix growth loop here, uh, so customer visits Netflix and consumes the content. So Netflix uses your preferences to learn more about you and tailors its recommendation engine or catalog to serve you better and recommends you a curated content. Now, what this leads to is you identifying better content on Netflix, which is curated to your taste, and thereby improving your engagement with the funnel, and thereby leading to improved retention. But and similarly, if I look at other example, which is of LinkedIn, so when you create a new user account on LinkedIn, LinkedIn suggests you to synchronize your account with your email list. Now, but once you do that, LinkedIn suggests connections based on your profile and contacts, and you increase your network. And there are certain other folks in your contact list which might not be present on the on LinkedIn, and LinkedIn will reach out to those maybe, and then new user will sign up. So this is basically a self-reinforcing loop whereby Netflix is improving acquisition. So if we, so basically growth, as I said earlier, this is the traditional way of looking at it, but we should be looking at it from the point of view of in a holistic way in growth loops, basically. Now coming to the second point, if you have any questions about the first point, I'm happy to answer those. I'll just be browsing through the chat to see if there are any questions.
So Nikhil, we have a question, but do you want to take it now or do you want to take it at the end?
We can take it at the end also, or now, if it is relevant to what I presented just now.
It is in the same line. So what we can do is we can have all the questions towards the end. That will help you taking all the questions one by one.
Yeah, because
That suits you.
yeah, because the chat is overlapping with the presentation, so it is kind of difficult to go through both of them simultaneously.
Okay. So I'm managing the chat and QA for you. I'll bring up the best questions for you and you can take it from there.
Okay, sure. So I'll move on to the second point.
Sure.
Okay. So the second point is about reinforcing habits to improve engagement. So this is a habit loop. I think James Clear, all of us would know because of his famous book about habits. And this is a typical habit loop where you get a cue or a trigger, and then which leads to a craving, and then it leads to a response. And once you have done it, then it leads to a reward. So this is a typical habit loop. Now, how we can utilize this to improve our product or to improve retention, engagement, and acquisition? I'll go through some of the examples. So typically, there are a lot of triggers can be classified into a lot of ways. One way is how James does in his book is by classifying in these 4 ways. One is time based, So time base is something basically you can utilize. Again, I'll run through some example. Sending a reminder for recharge when your prepaid validity is about to expire. So on free charge, if you have done a recharge, that is just one transaction, but you can improve your engagement by reminding the user just before validity, and that will lead to a improved value proposition for the user also, and a better conversion. So this is time-based trigger, and you have that information based on his first recharge. Similarly, Google Photos notifies users about various life events or something which happened like 2 years ago or 1 year ago, and you tap on it intuitively because you feel it is very personalized and contextual to you, and that leads to improved usage of Google Photos. And there are a lot of other examples that you could find in Indian e-commerce B2C space. This is a very this could be a very important tool or channel to improve your engagement. Next is location based. So an example of this would be Starbucks app, which you have on your device, finds that you are within X kilometer radius, say it is 1 kilometer radius or 2 kilometer radius, and it sends you a personalized push notification along with the offer maybe, and which you can tap, and you're likely that you will reach out to Starbucks for coffee. Next is event-based trigger. So example, End Money, which is a financial management app. It sends me a notification when a stock in my portfolio is up or down by 5% or more. Again, this is an event which happened during the day, but if it sends a notification using this information, then I'm more likely to tap on it and engage with it, and thereby improving engagement for End Money, and which would lead to maybe a further transaction or and improved retention for End Money. Another way could be programmed. So example, a travel app trying to cross-sell hotels to you because you purchase a flight to Goa. So because you are a leisure traveler and you purchase a flight to Goa, you are more likely to purchase a hotel also. So it will try to cross-sell you and send notification at a opportune time if they have identified that you have purchased a flight. So these are some of the examples, but these are like good tools to have in your quiver if you are into growth product. Next is the third one, which is perceived value. So so value is something which you perceive, and to build that perception, there are again various things that you can leverage. I'll go through a landing page of Ankur Wariku's course content website and run through some of the elements that are at play. So this is the landing page. When I click the ad for Ankur Wariku's course, so this is the landing page. So on top, as you can see, it sells me the course by listing out the value proposition. But interestingly, here you can see that there are various brands and logos of various brands which are mentioned. Now, what this is doing, subconsciously, a lot of users might not know who Ankur is or what he's trying to sell, but they would know what LinkedIn is, what Economics Times is, what Your Story, Mint, Business Today, all of these, TED. So and they would have some value attached to these brand names. Now, putting these brand logos, what it does is it tries to build trust in you by saying that, okay, I am also associated with these brands. So this is one strategy through which you can increase the value of your product. Here he's trying to sell his product, so he's increasing the value by saying, okay, these are the places and these are the things which are good, which you know, but I am also associated with this, so you can trust me. Subconsciously, that is happening while it is not being called out in that manner. Another thing is, if you look at the value again, so he's calling out lifetime and unlimited, these keywords, and again, a perception is being created about the price also. So when these keywords are being called out, what it is doing is it is creating a perception that the value that you would be getting would be much higher, while he is going to give you course access, but it will be just by mentioning lifetime and unlimited, it increases the perception of the value that you would be getting. Second is, I think this one is about price. So this is again leveraging anchoring effect. So he has mentioned a price, this is the value, and the perception that you are getting this for cheap is coming out using this. Then he's leveraging his personal brand by reinforcing and mentioning about his achievements so that you sign up to his course. Then again, in the end, he's also mentioning that you'll be getting a course completion certificate. While this is not going to add value in terms of learning, but again, your perception of value increases just because he mentions that you'll be getting a certificate. Then he has these testimonials, which are video testimonials. Again, when you see that people like you are doing this course and are bragging about it, you are more likely to gain trust about this. So you might have clicked the ad and you might have had, say, perception of value about the course before landing on this page. But once you scroll through this page, subconsciously, there are various elements at play which increases your perception of value about this product. So basically, value is something which users perceive, and good product folks, good marketers leverage this in their landing pages, in their product flows, and some of the elements are mentioned here, but there are a lot of other elements which can be leveraged. Other examples of this is basically Amazon's deal timer, that some deal is going to run out. Again, that creates a sense of urgency. Then there is 1 unit left at this price. Again, that creates a sense of scarcity. So all of these are subconsciously that increases the perception of the value that you associate with what you're going to purchase. Now moving to the fourth one, which is product channel fit. Now, there is a famous quote by Peter Thiel, who is a great startup investor and is a PayPal founder. Poor distribution, not product, is the #1 cause of failure. So you might have a very good product, but if your distribution is not tailored to your market, or if your product is not tailored to the channels that you are trying to serve, then it might not be successful. So what this says is that growth and understanding your channels and making your strategies suit to those channels is as equally, if not more important, than having a good product. So all channels are unique. Again, I'll walk through all of the points that I'm trying to make using some of the examples. So all channels are unique. Same strategy and success criteria can't be applied to them all. So when I say this, so there might be visitors on any website through various channels. So a person can discover, maybe let's take the example of Amazon. He might just open Amazon app because he has an intent to purchase a product. But there might be another user who makes a Google search and then he discovers Amazon page and then he goes there. Both of these are different channels. And then there might be another person who has clicked on a notification of a sale and then he visited Amazon. So all of these channels through which you will get visits will have different success criteria and should have different ways to measure the success. You can't say, okay, I'm getting, say, 1 lakh visits today and I'm able to convert 1% of those users. Tomorrow, if I get 1 lakh visits, if I am able to convert only 1%, then you can't say whether it is good enough or whether it is bad. Or even if you are able to convert, say, 0.5 and your conversion is declined, you can't still say it is good or bad, because it depends where from which channel your visitors came from. So if say the proportion of the visits increased from email channel or SMS campaign, you're bound to have lesser conversion. So while your visits might be very high, your conversion will be less. So understanding this is very important. And again, this will vary by product. but largely as channel and the mode of acquisition changes, your conversion and other success metrics will change. uh, Next point is you need to play by the rules of the channel. So your product needs to be aligned to the channel. It can't so happen that you have made a product and you can just go about selling it to all people through all channels. For example, again, SEO pages have to be made in a manner so that search engine can crawl it in a better way. So if, for example, you have not used right keywords and Google is not able to identify your product or match your product to those keywords, your website will not appear in the relevant search results. Also, there are certain criteria which all the search engine lists out, and you need to follow while designing your websites, so that so that Google can crawl your website and index it better. So while you might have super cool flows, if you have not followed these steps, you will not get visits, and thereby your usage of your product will be very limited. So again, your company might fail if you're not getting visits and subsequently you're not able to generate revenue. So along with the product, you need to play by the rules of the channel, and you need to customize your product to suit to that channel. Next is understanding channel saturation. So when there is more competition, it becomes more costly. Example of this would be Google Ads. So when you make a Google search, you would see that top 2 or top 3 results are ads or sponsored listings. Now Google charges for those ads, and typically user click on it, they visit, and they eventually transact. So what happens is, as people realize, or as competition increases in relevant keywords which might be leading to a good amount of traffic to someone and generating revenue, what happens is, as competition increases, your cost increases because there will be more bidding, and eventually what happens is that channel saturates, and those keywords also saturates, and you will find like 4 or 5 people fighting for just one keyword. So your cost will increase, and your customer acquisition cost will eventually increase, leading to a negative ROAS. ROAS is a metric which is used to measure return on advertising spend. I'll not go into details of that, but this is just one example of channel saturation. So we need to understand that, and so basically your resources as a or your effort as a growth marketer or growth product folk should be prioritized in a manner where you understand clearly that the amount of effort or the amount of resource that you allocate to that particular channel needs to be aligned to the output also. Then there are certain metric trade-offs that needs to be understood. For example, there are a lot of generic notifications that you might send in a very small period of time if you are doing leveraging the notification channel. Now, what that may lead to is you might get a lot of visits because you got a target that you need to increase your visits by X%. You did that, you got a lot of visits, and you might get some conversions from that also. But what will happen is it will harm the channel of notifications because a lot of users might disable notifications or even uninstall the app. So basically there is a trade-off that you are doing right now. So we need to think long term when we are using certain channels, and we need to be very conservative and be very thoughtful in utilizing certain channels, and we should not spray and pray. So basically just going about sending notifications to everyone, and if you have got a target to achieve X shoppers, then you or X visitors, you go about sending multiple notifications. I think most of you would be able to relate through the examples that I'm trying to give. Here I've listed some of the popular channels when I'm trying to explain product channel fit. These are some of the upcoming channels. So as a growth product folk, you need to understand your channels very well, and the kind of strategies that you need to employ to achieve success in these channels. Now moving to the fifth one, which is understanding user segments. So user can be classified in segments. And again, this is something that I'm quoting from a book, which is Business Model Generation. So user can be classified in segments if their needs require and justify a distinct offer. So one example of this is having a distinct offer for new users versus repeat users. Why this is important is because a repeat user is someone who trusts your platform. Maybe he's done a payment on your platform already. A new user is someone who wants to experience a product, and you needs a little bit of push to achieve that kind of a success which you want new user to experience. So basically, this is a clear segment of new user versus repeat users, and lots of organizations do this. You will find that new users will have a distinct set of offer. Another way in which you can segment is if they they are reached through different distribution channels. So for example, a user who is using your iOS app, already installed and using your iOS app, will you'll need to customize your product or build his journey in a different way, as opposed to maybe SEO users who landed on your website by clicking on a search result. So, and as I mentioned earlier in one of my slides, these two will have different conversions, will have different success criteria also. So in this way also you can segment your user base. The next is if they require different types of relationship. So this is one example which I have here from MakeMyTrip. So there might be, say, a business user or a user who is planning his holiday, but has a higher income level. Now, he might, if you show listing sorted by lowest price to highest price, he might be put off, because typically what happens in hotel listings, and if you search hotels in Delhi, for example, you'll find thousands of hotels. Now, you need to curate your listing so that it is more relevant for the user, and he's able to interact with it better and maybe eventually transact. To do that, you will need to identify your user segments and to which segment he belongs, and you will have to basically curate your listing in that manner. So one strategy which MakeMyTrip, and I'm sure a lot of travel portals apply, is basically if a customer has made a hotel booking on MakeMyTrip, what they do is they learn about customer tastes and preferences, and next time when the user visits, MakeMyTrip sorts hotel listing based on this learning, and that leads to improved engagement from the user. Then the next one is if the users have substantially different profitabilities. So example is of that of a business traveler versus a leisure traveler. So when I say business traveler is someone, so if you are traveling for office purpose, say from Bangalore to Delhi, then you will not maybe worry about a lot about flight prices. If you are looking to book a flight, you'll not worry much because you have to travel tomorrow, and it is very time sensitive. But if you're a leisure traveler, and if you're looking for flights, and if the price is on a higher side, you can mold your plan to receive a lower price, or to gain a lower price, or to get a better deal. Even you would be flexible enough, leisure traveler may be flexible enough to try a different destination. So knowing this information makes product and marketing know that these are different segments, and there might be certain flows that you can build for business traveler. There might be certain product set that you might need to build for leisure traveler, where you might need to improve discovery of maybe destinations or even cheaper flights for leisure traveler, but you might not need to do that for business traveler. So these are not exhaustive. These are some of the ways in which you can segment users, but user segment is another tool. Segmentation is another tool which will give you certain strategies, and you can strategize your features better. You can strategize your growth levers better. So basically, these are some of the things. So I think these are the 5 points that I wanted to cover. Then we have appendix, and I'll just run through a couple of examples more. So this is improving activation through unified login and sign up. So this is a snapshot of GoiVivo platform. When you click on login, this is what opens. So typically what happened like 3-4 years back, not just on GoiVivo, maybe some of the other platforms also, is you had separate login and sign up buttons. Now what that led to was that a lot of users ended up doing sign up using old numbers because they were not used to using your platform for long. They might have signed up earlier, and that led to error and maybe even drop offs. Same thing happened with login also, where you might have not signed up and you are trying to log in. So having separate journeys, what that led to was a lot of drop offs of users, which was pretty unintended. Now by combining these flows, what happens is user needs to enter his mobile number. And because you have that information, what you do is you identify whether it is a login or a sign up. And the next step is different based on whether you are an existing user or whether you are a new user. And you just go through. So there are no errors by combining both of these flows. And that leads to a lot of less drop-offs and thereby improving your activation. So this is one example of that. And a lot of, I think this is pretty common now, but was not very common like 3 or 4 years back. So this was just one example, but largely this is what I wanted to present. I think I'm done and I can go through the questions now.
Great session, Mr. Nikhil. So now we'll take up a few of the questions that have been asked by the learners. So Vidya asks, so most of the examples are for online marketing and distribution. What about offline marketing and distribution of products?
So yeah, so first of all, I thought this session is regarding will be curated more towards online because I wanted to share my experiences. But having said that, in the limited time, this is what we could cover. But most of the concepts that I've run through could be applied to offline also. And I could take certain examples. So for example, time-based triggers, which I covered earlier in my slide, and I took the example of maybe sending a reminder for a recharge. That could be utilized by, say, a store nearby you, who knows that you are a regular customer, and in the neighborhood, they can reach out to various folks and market that way. Another good example could be during festivals. So festival, what happens during that time of the year, people know that that you're going to do certain things. You'll get bonuses, you are going to make purchases, you are going to buy gifts for your friends and family, and they curate your offers in that manner. So basically that is in another example of a trigger or a event that is happening, and marketers should know that there is a high psych or a high intent that customers will have related to certain things. So yeah, and these are like a couple of examples that come to top of my head, but most of these concepts are relevant for offline marketing as well. Yeah.
Divyendu asks, growth is quintessential for an organization. However, it leads to complexities as well. Now, complexities again kills growth. Now, how to manage this paradox of growth and complexities?
I disagree up to an extent that complexity kills growth. So again, I'll take an example to explain it better. So Netflix recommendation engine, for example, and I showed how that leads to better growth. Now, a recommendation engine could start off with a simple algorithm, but as you identify through subsequent data, you will find opportunities that as you improve the complexity and improve more parameters in your recommendation engine, you'll be able to increase maybe 10% engagement in a better way, and that will eventually lead to better growth. So while that may not be understood by a lot of people, and that is leading to increased complexity, but that is also leading to subsequent growth. Uh, Having said that, the flows for users should be simple enough. While it should be complex, maybe complex in a growth or product brain, or whatever you are trying to build might be complex, but from a user flow standpoint, it should be pretty simple. And I'm aligned that it should not be complex for the user. And one of the problems and a lot of B2C consumers, consumer apps end up doing is they build a lot of features, and they don't kill features. So what ends up doing is, while you will see improved engagement, improved conversion overall, that might lead to new users being put off because they want a simpler flow and they want to experience your product first. If you have a lot of complexity in your flows by building a lot of features, then they might be put off. Having said that, you need to strike a decent balance, because a lot of repeat users might need certain features, and that might be emerging based on their usage patterns, and which you need to solve for. So basically, personalization is there. Personalization is the thing which comes, and as I mentioned in my customer segment slide, you need to personalize. So you need to be, for example, in the example that I was taking for new users and repeat users, you need to maybe curate your flows, make it less complex for new users, and have the features, have certain feature for certain user segments. For example, as I mentioned in the leisure versus business segment user, if I know that this user is from a business segment, I'll not show certain feature or maybe suppress it, and I'll show cheapest flight discovery only for maybe a leisure sector traveler.
Sure. Arindam asks, how do you do awareness with the growth loop? Nike in case of Netflix.
So awareness typically, if I understand the question correctly, this is more geared towards product. Right. So basically, what happens typically in case of Netflix here is that because your engagement with Netflix increases, you will start recommending Netflix more to your friends and family, and that is how your awareness will also increase. So while directly you are not trying to increase awareness, but there is a rub-off effect of the strategy if that particular example is being asked for. So, and that eventually leads to improved awareness.
Sure. How do we measure success or conversion of acquisition to activation, so on and so forth, by Srinivas?
So that is, I think, pretty straightforward. So as I showed in the AAR funnel, I'll share again. So basically here, you're asking about how do we measure the success of awareness to acquisition, right? So basically what happens is you have different channels. So you might, these are some of the channels. So every channel will have separate success metric, as I mentioned earlier. So if you are reaching out through, so typically in online space, what happens is there is a campaign identifier which is attached to every campaign, and once you run campaigns, you know the typical reach that you are having, and how many people click on it. You measure that through CTR typically, and you'll log it. You'll be able to log it because people click on your links. And once user lands on your page, you will be able to know how many people land on your page through that particular campaign, and how many users sign up eventually using that campaign. You will be able to measure that. So basically, it is typically done at a channel level, and then you identify it. So for maybe email channel, you will have lesser activation as compared to the awareness that or the reach that you have done. as compared to maybe SEO, where users search for a keyword and your website appeared organically.
Vidya says, can you give example related to queues which are not app-based?
Queues which are not app based. So again, queues which are not app based could be offline marketers uh, leveraging user psychology. Again, for example, if you are stuck in traffic and at that particular point, if you see a billboard of Google Maps, which leverages the pain that you are going through, and if you are able to connect with that particular billboard, then I would say that that would be one example of an offline queue.
Shailesh says, what would be the role of traditional marketing in the future? Will they die in future and only digital marketing will survive? If yes, for example, in travel industry, traditional channels have died due to online channels. Will it be the same story for maximum products in the future?
So I personally think it would be a mix, because typically, as I mentioned earlier, there are a lot of user segments. So there will always be certain user segments who would need your products curated to their needs. So I'll take example of vernacular, for example. So typically you have all the websites which are in English, even in India, where we have a majority, maybe Hindi speaking population, and some of the other regional population where they speak native language primarily. But what you see is that you won't find Hindi pages a lot. And even if there are certain online companies or even travel, for example, we have tried vernacular, we don't see a lot of traction on that. There we get visits, maybe the conversion is not there, maybe users are getting used to it, we don't know. So what I'm trying to say is that there is certain user segment where you will always find that they're not mapping to the channels that you are trying to reach out through. So you always need traditional channels, you will always need traditional modes of business, which will have at least hold relevance right now. And in future, I think as your population or as your user segments grow homogeneous, then maybe that relevance is lost. Another good example to answer this question would be example of Cred app for you. So Cred does not need maybe the traditional channel. Cred, because the user base is so homogeneous, the user base is well defined. It is like 700 plus credit score of credit card users. So it is very homogeneous. So they don't need to, for example, be concerned about Hindi users. Sure. And they can limit their channels or possibilities, whatever.
Now Gautam asks, in a short cycle environment, what are the different ways by which a company can sustain the value perceived by the users? What importance do brand values hold? What will happen if the competitors copy a particular feature? Will the first mover advantage sustain or not?
So there are a lot of questions in this. So one thing is, yeah, brand holds a lot of importance. Typically, because I have the privilege to work in a group where we have three important travel brands. We have MakeMyTrip, we have GoIbibo, we have Redbus, and which have similar sort of products. We know that when the brand value is higher, there is a certain amount of there is a certain amount element of user psychology at play, and which might lead to different metrics or different success metrics. So that thing is very clear, that brand does play a role. I lost the other questions, so if you can.
I'll just repeat that. What will happen if the competitors copy a particular feature, and do you think that the first mover advantage will remain?
So first mover advantage is definitely good in a lot of sense, but it is not always true. So for example, I'll take Kindle for example. So before Kindle, we had a lot of in the US market, there were other readers as well, but and Kindle definitely did not have a first movers advantage. So what Kindle did to kind of gain traction, if it did not have a first mover advantage, what was it uh, brought all the publishers online and forced them to kind of build the books in a homogeneous format. And because Amazon had kind of cornered the online book market by then, it was able to arm twist those publishers into doing that thing. And because it was able to build that ecosystem, there was a clear delta 4 experience that users were gaining by buying Kindle as opposed to other readers. And while Kindle was a definitely not a first mover, it gained a lot of traction just because it was able to develop this ecosystem and was able to build a superior product experience. So there is always opportunity. I think first mover advantage, while it is going to stay, but it will always be limited. And the corollary is also that if you are the first mover and if you have gained traction, you can't sit back on your laurels. You continuously need to innovate and improve your product. You can't bank on your market share that you have already gained.
Innovation is the key.
Yeah.
Anonymous asks, what's one of your favorite products and what is something that you would like to change about it?
Can you repeat that question?
What is one of your favorite products and what is something that you would like to change about that particular product?
This is more of a interview question. So
you want to take the next question?
Yeah, sure.
So
actually, there are a lot of products that I use and I might want to change. So I'll take that question. So I use Amazon a lot and I really like that product. But what I don't really like about Amazon is and this might sound geeky and a lot of people might not relate to it. So Amazon, if you land on the Amazon app, the experience is very latent, and a lot of times, even if you are connected to Wi-Fi, it takes a lot of time to load, and certain pages are very slow. So why that is? Being from product background, I know what is at play there. So basically, even in the native app, they have a certain amount of certain pages which are React native and not native as such. So what that leads to is a little bit of lag and not getting you perfect native experience. So that is something that I want to correct. So what Amazon can probably do is it can find most visited pages, measure its latency across maybe 75th percentile of the users, and look to bring native experience to that. And while there is a downside that they might not be able to change roll out changes very fast, but I'm sure there is a balance that can be strike through. And because the reach of Amazon is such that this is a clear problem, at least I see that they need to solve.
Sure.
Yeah.
The last question for today's session, this comes from Seema, and she asks, can you please explain the difference between retention and revenue?
So retention is basically when a user who has experienced your product comes back to use your product again. Revenue is typically the amount of money that you earn out of maybe a user, a transaction. But there could be dichotomy in that. For example, a company might incur a certain amount of cost to acquire a user, and typically it is called customer acquisition cost. And on the first transaction itself, you might not earn revenue. So maybe even on the second transaction, you might not be able to earn revenue. So because you have probably given him certain offer, or the user came during some of the sale days, but typically revenue as a concept is different from retention.
Great, great, great. Fine. So I'd like to thank you, Mr. Nikhil, for sharing your insights with us today. And as you rightly said and mentioned also, the demand for product managers who can align all the stakeholders involved in launching or enhancing a product while also providing a strategic vision is really high. And we are all aware that some of the highest paid professionals in the Silicon Valley are no longer engineers, they are actually product managers. And today, a quick LinkedIn search alone shows that 32,000 plus positions are still unfulfilled for just the base level product managers. And that's why the Kellogg Executive Education at Northwestern University ranked #1 for marketing by US News and World Report as per 2022, and acclaimed for having 19 alumni serving as CEOs of Fortune 500 companies, has launched a 36-week online postgraduate certificate in product management. Become a next gen product manager or mini CEO by joining this online certificate program taught by Professor Mohanbir Sani, a globally recognized scholar, educator, and author in driving product innovation and customer centricity for business success. Applications are now open for Kellogg's postgraduate certificate in product management program. So if you are a mid to senior level professional who is looking to develop your aptitude and to build and manage a product roadmap with the UX design, agile methodology, and data science and analytics, in that case, this is the program for you. Apply now and you will avail of an early registration discount of 10% on the program fee. Thank you all for your time, and we look forward to seeing you in our digital classroom. Uh, Thank you, Mr. Nikhil, for having such a great session and enlightening all our learners with the insights, knowledge, and the kind of experience that you carry, that you share. It was a great session. So, from all of us at Eruditus, I would like to thank you and all our learners for attending today's session. Thank you, Mr. Nikhil.
Thank you, Saurabh. Thank you, everyone, for having me, bearing with me. I hope the session was useful to some of you, maybe in some manner, and I was able to explain some of these concepts better.
Absolutely. And for the program details, we have also mentioned the link of the program in the chat box. So all the learners, you can access that link and you will get all the insights regarding the program. So thank you once again from all of us. Take care and have a great evening. Thank you.